Best of R / Tales from Retail episode 17. Hi, long time lurker and a first time poster. So I used to work in a Scottish whiskey shop in Edinburgh, Scotland. I loved it since talking to tourists from all over the world was grand and made my workdays super interesting. All nationalities have their own character and culture, which is cool. Americans tend to be really friendly and 9/10 times it was an absolute joy to serve you. Should probably be noted that claiming to be a nationality due to your grandparents or even further backwards from there is annoying and rude to Europeans. However, saying that you have, insert nationality, ancestry is a polite way of saying it. This particular customer was an East Coast American, let's call her AC, American customer. My co-worker is GN, Gaelic native speaker, and me with my best customer service English. Hi, how are you doing today? AC, I'm doing well and you? Me, I'm fine, thank you. So what can I help you with today? AC, with an American accent. Well, I am actually Scottish. My grandfather is from Scotland. Me, oh, I see. GN and I are dying a wee bit inside. AC, yes, so I am one of you. He was from the islands of Scotland, so I am a native Gaelic speaker as well. GN gets excited because not a lot of people speak her language. Form hath. Estoil Liam Gurkoni Chad. AC, goes pale as a ghost eye. What? GN, slower. Form hath. Estoil Liam Gurkoni Chad. AC, just walks away without saying anything while looking embarrassed to be caught lying. GN, embarrassed. I only said it was nice to meet her. Me, exaggerated Scottish accent. I can, but that lassie was a numpty. We laughed about it for days afterward. Later my fellow European co-workers told me that they have had similar situations in the past with North Americans claiming to be from their home countries. So my co-workers started speaking their native language and it turns out they didn't even know how to say hello in that language. I mean, still, it was a funny situation to us. I think others in the tourism industry can relate. Thank you. Next. So, I still don't know how to take this. Before I get into it, let me start by saying that I live in a pretty okay area. The city itself has ranked high a few times for crime, but it was for overall crime, so the boost usually came from pot possession before it was legalized. I have worked for the same company for a few years, in a few different stores. And while the majority of customers were 60 plus for most of my time there, they are generally okay. This was a first for me. Monday I was at work. Normally I work the self-checkouts, but this shift I was on an actual till. Everything was actually going pretty smoothly. Just a typical day, typical customers. Close to the end of my shift I had an older couple come through. They didn't have too big of an order, and no produce to key in, so I had it all scanned quickly. The whole thing couldn't have taken more than 2 minutes. The customers were both friendly, we were joking about the snow. Then it came time for them to pay. So husband continues to bag the groceries while wife pays. All good, right? Nope. There must have been a tiny bit of dust on her card, or it was off center a smidge, so the chip reader came up with an error. Now, our machines are older. The error message is very common. To the point where I don't even have to turn it to see the screen to fix it. Usually all it takes is swiping your finger over the chip to remove lint or dust, or inserting the card with a bot more force so the machine grabs it. That was my plan. I deal with this situation at least a dozen times per shift. So, I said, oh, just a sec, I can fix it. I just need to see your card a sec. Well, damn, you would have thought I had held a gun to her head and demanded her wallet. She looks at me and says, why? What are you going to do? So I explained, it's usually just a bit of dust or lint. I was just going to wipe the chip off. That's when she said, no, it's not what you want to do. You don't want to do that. You aren't doing that. So she tries inserting her card again. Same problem. The 2 attempts must have dislodged the dust because the 3rd time it worked. I don't know how to process the exchange. I've never had someone imply that I'm going to steal from them just because I offered to fix the issue with their card in the machine. The 2 customers that followed her witnessed the whole exchange and were joking around with me about it, which made me feel better, but it's still kind of bugging me. Thank you. Next. So for context, I work at a large outdoor retailer. This happened I think either on Black Friday or Saturday of last week. I am a cashier and I was checking out a couple and their children when the lady asked me if I could tell them how many points they have on their rewards credit card. I tell them sure, it will come up on my screen when you remove your card. She says no it won't, that's not how it works. And I repeated myself and said yes it will. So when they took their card out, lo and behold I was right. I told them how many they had and they took their receipt and left. Later one of my managers came up to me and told me that they complained about me and said I had an attitude with them. She didn't even bother to tell him the whole story. He didn't even worry about it and said it was okay and keep going. But still, how the hell is it my fault that I was right? I'm an employee, I'm supposed to know what to do. Maybe she doesn't like to be wrong. IDK, it just made me mad that she complained about me being right. Thank you. Next. This happened 2 days ago. I work for a retail warehouse that is always busy. We have a machine for money that I have to fill several times a day with money for our registers. It's basically an ATM for employees to grab money for their tills. Well, I had just clocked in for my shift. I picked up money that I needed to load the ATM with from our safe. I brought it to our hidden spot for the ATM. A man walks behind the small area where I am loading a very ridiculous amount of money into the ATM and says, "Man, can you look up an item for me and tell me if you have it?" Me, "Sir, I'm very sorry. I'm tied up right now and unfortunately, you're not allowed back here. If you don't mind stepping over there for a moment, I'll radio a manager for you. They will be more than happy to help you out." Man, I don't see what the big deal is. It'll probably take you 2 seconds. Me, calls manager to help annoyed customer. "Sir, I apologize, but I am not allowed to leave this money sitting here or bring it with me. It has to be put in immediately. I just called a manager to help you and she will be here shortly. Also, if you don't mind stepping back behind the wall, I'd really appreciate it. Unfortunately, sir, you are not allowed back here." Man, I don't see why you're being so rude. I just asked for an item to be looked up. It's not like I'm going to steal your damn money. I spend thousands of dollars here every year. He finally backs up behind the wall. Manager arrives. Manager, hello, what can I help you with? Man, yes, I need help finding something and your employee has been very rude to me. She wouldn't help me and made me stand here and wait for you when she could have just done it herself. It would only take 2 seconds. Manager, I'm sorry to hear that. I can help you find the item really quick. Follow me, and we can talk about your encounter with LOTR Junkie. The man finally leaves. Manager comes back to me. I explained to her the interaction between the man and I and she explained to me that I did the right thing. She followed that up with, "Manager, what an jerk he was. LOL. TLDR. Man gets mad. I told him to get out from behind my ATM hiding spot and won't look up an item for him. I had a large amount of money to fill an ATM with. Proceeds to complain to my manager about how rude I was for not leaving the money to help him. Thank you." Next. I finally got out of retail 3 months ago, but Black Friday and my favorite sub made me want to post some old stories. Setting everybody's favorite electronics retailer. After a long day of selling phones smarter than the people buying them, a couple of connected home guys and I are greeted with a strange sight. It is 9:15. The store closes at 9 p.m. The automatic doors are shut off, but not locked. One of the gates is down, leaving only the exit unblocked. A woman walks up to the doors, looks them up and down, then proceeds to pry open the exit door and walk in. She is immediately met with a group of about 5 employees, 1 nice manager, 1 mean manager, and 3 regular associates, all annoyed at the prospect of having to be stuck in the store longer than they have to. Nice manager, "I'm sorry ma'am, but the store is closed for the day. You'll have to come back tomorrow." Lady, "But it's so close after closing. I promise I'll be quick." Me, "I'm sorry, but it's still closing time. We can't just stay open longer every time someone decides they want to come in." Lady, "Don't worry, I'm not even buying anything. I just want to look." Me, "So you want us to keep the store open and have all of us wait here when we're all ready to go home just so you can look at something and not even buy it?" Mean manager, "Yeah, I'm gonna need you, lady, to get out of my store. We're trying to close. Go on." Shoo. "I don't even understand what goes through customers' heads. I'm going to keep you all here and prevent you from finishing up your duties and going home. but it's okay because I don't plan on giving this place any money in the first place. Thank you. Next. So, there's one thing besides Karens we all have to deal with in the retail industry that's just as annoying: shoplifters. This is the story of the ones that made me the most angry. One day at large name electronics store, I'm at the front, in mobile, when I noticed two women walk in pushing huge strollers with one hand and baby carriers in the other. Oh, I thought, that's a pretty absurd amount of babies. Until I noticed the baby carriers were empty and the babies were in the strollers. Alright, they just didn't want to leave big posh baby carrier seat things in the car. It's kind of a rough neighborhood. I get it. 5 minutes later, on the walkie, I hear D, the asset protection woman. She's gotten a weird vibe from these ladies who have since moved on to the video game section. D, God rest her soul, was a brick wall of a woman, about 50 years old and way beyond giving a single solitary. She's the security guard to end all security guards, and her spidey sense had 100% accuracy. So, naturally, on a slow day I and all the other board associates make rounds in video games because it's fun to mess with the shrink watches. This is when I'm treated to the sight of the women with their babies now in the carriers, but a large distinctly baby-shaped lump is still in each stroller underneath a blanket. A more tenured manager and I go to confront them and the manager pulls the blanket off of about $300 worth of video games that these women were trying to steal. But that's not the worst part. I glance down at the babies and their carriers, because they are shifting uncomfortably, and I see that distinctive Xbox One green underneath the baby. That's right, they were trying to hide more stolen games underneath their children. We recovered all the games and told them to never return. Personally, I think the cops and CPS should have been called. Thank you. Next. Be me, working frontside in my bakery. This happened about a week ago. A group of 5 comes in and one of the ladies in the group immediately starts talking over the other customers I'm helping to ask questions. I try to be patient with her and work with her, and the first customer I'm helping, she starts making comments about how everyone acting crazy and hero and thin. Because I had to tell her that I'd help her in a moment. We will call her C and I'll be M. C, the cake's in the case. You can slice them, right? M, no sorry, they're sold as whole cakes. We don't do any slicing here, but I can give you a cake cutter and some container if that works. C, is that extra? M, not for the cutter, but for the containers, yes. C, fine. That's fine. I then ring them out and bring them everything they need, then proceed to the next customer. By now there's a line because she asked every question she could about the cake she wants, where the bathrooms are, how much things cost, you know, the usual. A few moments later she starts screaming to the only other employee besides me that the cake cutter isn't sharp enough and wants a knife to cut her cake. Which I'm just now noticing she is trying to cut in store at one of our dining tables and is making a huge mess. My co-worker knows she's being rude and extra, so she decides to get these ladies out of here and cut the cake for them to get them to leave. This enrages C and she comes around to the other side of the register to scream at me. C, did you charge me for the cake cutter? Why couldn't you do this for us? This is a basic service for a customer. Why would you even give me that cake cutter knowing it wouldn't work? M, I'm sorry miss, but this is really against our policy. We never cut cakes. Nor have we had any issues without cake cutters. We never charge for cake cutters either, those are always free with a cake purchase. This will be a one-time only event. We've also never had any problems with the cake cutters, so I had no reason to believe it wouldn't cut properly. C then goes into a rage about who the manager is, it's me, and how she's going to talk to the owner about my rude behavior, stating I need a new job, I need to be fired, that I don't even know who I'm dealing with. That's a $15,000 client that we just lost. Then shouts in the ear of any nearby employee willing to listen. And I deadass laughed a little and just sat quietly at the register and waited for her to leave. After she left, my co-worker who volunteered to cut the cake stated that not once, but twice the woman tried to get the knife from her, which really got my goat even more. I haven't heard any complaints or seen any bad reviews about the situation, so I'm glad to see my assumption that she was blowing smoke was correct. Tune in next post for more of my wacky bakery adventures.